Contractor's ready to go.
Yeah, and I'll let Chris. Yeah, I think that was partly.
I'm happy to take that offline.
A little bit rough and ready, but have a chat to Chris about it.
So you happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else on the... Will someone move that we accept them?
I'll move.
Alan? Seconder? Peter? All those in favour?
Aye.
Clifton to Tangoio Coastal Hazard Strategy updates.
We have a strategy.
He does have a strategy.
Does a very good strategy.
Retreat.
So, Chair, as Chairman of the Joint Committee on Coastal Hazards, Chris has asked me to just give a bit of an overview of this. As we all know, it's sitting around this table, at least it's a bit of a ticking time bomb that we're dealing with here. We know we have a 20 centimetre sea level rise as at today. We know that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment has told us that we can expect another 30 centimetres by 2050, and we are seeing increasingly scientists making noises about the 1.5 degrees global warming happening by 2040. So with a community like we have here with a very vulnerable coastline, this has become a matter of some urgency for our three councils to deal with. And if we look at the coastline more specifically, we see what's happened in Clifton, and we know that at the cost of $400,000, Hastings District Council now have a consent to build the revetment. The revetment's going to cost them, the wall was going to cost $1 million, but it's cost them $400,000 just to get a consent because there was one submission against it. We know that Te Wonga is vulnerable. We know that we've got major problems at Hamawana with those 21 houses that are on the coastline there, and we haven't yet got a strategy to the point where we can immediately deal with that problem. We know we've got problems at West Shore, and I'm very pleased that we've been able to broker an arrangement between the Port of Napier and Regional Council and Napier City Council, which will ensure that all appropriate sand that comes from the port dredging and the new wharf will be used in the inshore area to improve the profile of the beach at West Shore. Just 2 weeks ago, I had a call from one of the panel members who lives in Whirinaki, inviting me up to see what's happening up there. And what I discovered when they gave me a walk around the immediate coastline, which is where North Shore Road is that there's something like 15 metres of erosion happened there since around about the year 2000. And North Shore Road is now under threat as well. And there are parts of that piece of coast there where North Shore Road is only probably 5 metres away from the cliff edge, if you like. So they've got some major problems there. We're not even talking about Whirinaki, but that's got some real problems that are going to need to be seeking some form of remedial action in the near future as well. So that's just in Hawke Bay. We haven't even looked at the rest of our coastline, and I'm sure that Debbie and Fenton can talk to some of the dangers that they see in their territories as well. So we have a strategy for Hawke Bay, and it took us something like 3 years to develop that strategy. And I thought once we had the strategy in place, that would be the hard part. Actually, it's the easy part, because the reality is the implementation of that strategy is actually going to be the hard part, because that's when we start to spend the big dollars, and there's so many difficult questions that sit in front of us. For instance, which of the units on this coastline are the priorities for our expenditure? And what are the triggers that will cause us to start taking actions? We need to get much more detail with the costings for each of the options that we've chosen for each part of the coastline. And once we've done that, how are the costs split between the three councils that are involved? These are all serious conversations that lie immediately in front of us. And then there's a question about intergenerational spending and how we can, are we able to collect money now for use on the coastline in 30, 40, 50 years' time? And there's some serious questions under the Local Government Act whether we actually can do that or not. So there's all sorts of problems lying in front of us, and the reason why we've proposed that the Joint Committee be increased from 2 members from each council to 3 is to improve the level of communication and knowledge in each of our constituent councils going forward, because we absolutely need to socialise all of the issues that we face, and we all know that we're going to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars in the foreseeable future to protect our community. So there's lots and lots of issues that are coming up in the near future, and I think we're going to get a paper at the next council meeting, I think, with the updated terms of reference and proposing that we increase our membership from 2 to 3 from each council. And with the chair's permission, I've already invited Neil to attend the meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So unless there are questions, Chair, that's an update on where we're at.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions for Peter? Everyone's getting tired.
Well, the only thing is, Peter, I think you've given a very good summary of it. I think you've understated how intractable this problem is going to be, and I'm not sure that increasing the council's representation to 3 is going to make it any easier.
That's probably right.
It's the place is in complete denial.
The world's in denial. Thank you, Peter. So do we have someone to move?
I'm happy to move the...
I'll see
Peter
you
will move, will be seconded by Rick. All those in favour? Aye. Okay, so we have minor items, one of which is mine. I just wanted, I'll take mine first. This is a map on Tomato Peak. There's the side of Tomato Peak where the track is. There's the track. So the purpose of this is so I've had involvement with this right from the very beginning since the track went up, but then I pulled out.
Where's the zigzag track?
I'll show you. There it is there.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. I'll wait for the movie to come out.
It's a bit mean.
Just to give you a little background, I've had a lot to do with it, but I pulled out because it got really aggressive, and I thought it's nothing to do with us. Why am I even here? So I left. But about a month ago, Hastings and Craigie Range asked me if I would come back in and talk. So I have. I've talked to all the Tangoio whenua groups. I've talked to Waimarama. I've talked to Craigie Range. Spent a lot of time with the Huttons. Spent a lot of time with Drabble because I thought it was worth the energy. So the proposal, and it has been really interesting. This is the map produced by the Hastings District Council at great cost because they wanted to look at the whole thing. And what was of interest to me, so I'll just give you some, so there's Craigie Range there, and this was interest to our council. This is our track which we are helping to fund, which is the roadside track, bicycle track, and it comes out just by Craigie Range. So we're heavily involved in this, and that got stalled as a process of the track because everyone got freaked out because of the politics around the existing track. In the interim, so this map was produced. When I first saw it, it was very interesting to me because these are wetlands up in the hill. So the road's right down here, and these wetlands are up here. So there were people living up here, and 800, 600 years ago, there was a major marae situated here. But these wetlands, the Huttons are keen to have back into wetlands. So that sort of perked my interest. So I was interested in this. And then subsequently, of course, in the track, subsequently, and there's actually, Gravel's got in here, there's some trees you will notice if you drive along there. And in here is an eel sanctuary. So he's got ponds, beautiful ponds filled with the most beautiful water. And I'd started to wonder where that water comes from. He thought it came from over here, but subsequently we've discovered it comes from these two wetlands here. So the water's going under this paddock, into the road, into this, essentially an eel sanctuary there. It's the best water I've ever seen in Hawke's Bay. It's cleanest, crystal clear water. So a group of guys have got together and they've said, the first, they said from here, this piece of land here, which included the track, all the way back, they would like to buy it and gift it to us as a regional park. Of course, we weren't that enthusiastic. I'll say I wasn't enthusiastic about inheriting the issues around the existing track. I had a meeting with the Town Whenua group, and they were very emphatic, and Waimarama Hapu, very emphatic that the track goes before there's any discussion on other tracks. There is a possibility of a track running on the low hills up here through to Tomato Peak through the Hutton land, and the Huttons have been really good, and they've sort of opened this up to the community and said, you know, if you want to discuss an alternative track, that could be, but there's no real, there's a lot of discussion around that, so, and a lot of openness from them. At the moment, I'm talking to them about the wetlands and talking to these people about having a regional park here, subject to council approving it, but subject to that track not being there.
I wanted to put this yesterday, but it didn't.
So I've had to all this without, I've shared it with Rick as we've gone along because I needed to keep someone in the loop, and a few other, as I run into people, I've shared it, but I needed the opportunity to share it with everyone here.
Well, thank you, Rick.
I think it's a great proposal, Rex. I just think what needs to happen is when you get close to finalising this, we need a paper to set it all out so we're clear about what our obligations are and what our commitment will be to it.
Yeah.
It'll be a stunning addition to Hawke's Bay.
One of the things I've talked to Waimarama is that if you have this bicycle track here, we could set up a thing here similar to the Celestial Compass that with pose and you know, a staging post to go up this track if that ever happened, but a staging post to talk about the history of this area for all those people who are cycling and the people that visit Craigie Range and just people that are driving along there. But it has been quite exciting, and I've shared this with Ian Maxwell too, because it's wetlands on private land. And they're real keen. The family who own the land, they've owned it for 5 generations. And the 5th generation are a young couple, and they are particularly keen to preserve the wetlands.
Are they Maoris?
They're not Maoris.
Do they want to be?
Do they want to be?
So it's really...
You got any daughters?
I won't do anything until we come back to council. I just wanted to share that with you. So that's just one.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done.
There was another one too, wasn't there?
Yes, it was.
Central Hawke's Bay
Debbie.
Water.
Oh,
Debbie.
Central Hawke's Bay Water, Debbie.
And look, most of you were there last night, so just for the benefit of the 3 councillors that were absent, last night we had, in conjunction with the District Council and the Regional Council, a water symposium in Central Hawke's Bay.
Meeting.
I'd like to thank the councillors that took the time to come down, Fenton, Rex, Mike, Paul, Peter, Tom, and also I'd really like to acknowledge the staff, because James and his team did an absolutely outstanding job in terms of getting facts on the table and taking a whole lot of emotion out of the debate. There were 180 people in the room, and I was quite concerned about the line of discussion where the meeting could have gone, but it was really respectful engagement, and for that I was very grateful. I would like to especially acknowledge, James is just acknowledging you and your staff for the superb job that you did last night and the great feedback we've had, and particularly Petty, because I just thought you were the icing on the cake at the end, so thanks Mike for that quiet suggestion. Yeah, it was a very well received public meeting, and I think Hawke's Bay Regional Council came out in shining colours, so I look forward to putting a lot of the emotional debate in my neck of the woods that's going on at the moment to bed, with more dialogue like that in the future. And well, I mean, I can't thank all of you enough, but I'm getting high accolades from Jeff Smith, for Jeff Smith as well. Yeah, so well done, team. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. That's the end of our meeting. Thanks for enduring it. Hopefully some of you can attend. Gary close farewell and have a beer.
Sorry, did you want to
Can you close our meeting, please?